hounds, chase ghosts, come sleep, watch out, demons are coming, run, sleep, hide, spirits, ghosts, hide, demons, hounds, ghosts, demons are coming, spirits, ghosts.
Welcome home, my little hellhounds. Tonight we have 4 Reddit stories to sink our hellish teeth into. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new. I would love this channel to get to 100 subs by New Year's Day. That would be awesome. And don't forget to like the video, as this really helps the channel. Also, make sure to click that bell icon so you get notified every time I upload. If you have any stories you want narrated on the channel, then submit them to Reddit r/homeofscares. I will put a link in the description, and follow me on Twitter at homeofscares. Now, let's get right into it. The Unhireable Nurse, posted by MTP6921. Oh God, how did I end up in this position in life? I'm watching the dryers go round and around in the laundromat as I sit here as a gay 40-something-year-old man who can't find a nursing job because of my narcotic abuse. I loved being a nurse and helping people. Why did I take those Percocet? It ruined my life. Even going through the state-ordered rehab program to get my nursing license back, and still no one will hire me. No guy wants me. I'm just a washed up loser who will lose my Brooklyn, New York apartment sooner than later. I might as well go over to my mother's house again for coffee. I'm sure she wants to hear her adult son sob over how pathetic he is. The next morning I'm awoken by the bright sun in my face. I feel like I have a migraine. As I open my eyes, I can tell someone is in the bed with me. I say to myself, did I relapse last night and take narcotics? I realise that I'm in someone else's bedroom, and it's a woman. I'm in complete shock. She has long, black, curly hair and is someone who I have never seen before, and she's still sleeping. I decide to get up and look around. I realise that I'm in a single-story ranch house. I look on the wall and see photos of me with the woman who I woke up next to and a young girl who looks no older than 12 years old. I say to myself, what the heck is going on? I've never been in this house and I've never seen that woman or child before. I go back to the bedroom to try to retrieve my cell phone, and it's nowhere to be found. I can tell the woman is about to wake up as she moves from side to side in the bed. I exit back out of the bedroom and go towards the front door. As I exit, I hear the woman in the bedroom yell out, "John, can you make me coffee?" I say to myself, I'm not John. I'm Rory Zimkowitz. I open the door and say out loud, what the hell is going on? As I look to the left, I see trees. As I look to the right, I see more trees. I see a narrow road about 30 yards from the house, and nothing but trees on either side of the road. I then hear footsteps come from behind me, and the woman says, "John, did you make the coffee? Did you hear me?" I tried to keep my head down. I don't know if I accidentally stumbled into this house last night, but that still wouldn't explain why there are multiple pictures of me on the walls. I slowly put my head up and nervously say, "No, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you." The woman responds, "Oh, that's okay. You must have had a busy day at work last night. I'll make the coffee." I think to myself, I haven't worked for well over a year. Who is she referring to? The woman briskly moves about the house and then eventually gets keys out of her purse and says, "I'm going to run to the market to pick up a few things. Can I get you anything?" I nervously say, "No, I'm okay." Then she says, "Sarah is still sleeping." I respond, "Oh, okay, I guess." She leaves the house and I see her late model tan Honda Accord pull out of the driveway. I head to the bathroom and look in the mirror, and I still see me. I open the cabinet and find Tylenol, because I still have a throbbing headache. As I come out of the bathroom, I hear soft footsteps come towards me. Then I see a little girl with brown hair who says, "Good morning, Daddy." I am completely befuddled. She looked right at me and called me Daddy. I have never seen this girl before. I say, "Oh, good morning." She says, "Daddy, I want pancakes." I think to myself, I'm not the cooking type. I've never made pancakes before. I don't know what else to say, so I say, "Okay, I'm not exactly sure what to look for regarding how to make the pancakes. I assume some kind of pancake powder." As I look through the kitchen cabinets, Sarah then says, "The mix is on the top shelf in the cabinet," as she points her finger. I respond, "Oh yeah, that's right." I follow the directions on the box, which only requires adding water, and I flip them in the pan on the stove as directed. I try to get information out of Sarah to figure out who they are and why I'm here. While Sarah is eating the pancakes, I say to her, "What do you want to be when you get older?" She responded, "You know, Dad, I want to be a nurse like you." I say, "Oh, that's right. Do you want to work where I work?" Sarah responds, "Yeah, I want to work in the old people's home like you." I think to myself, she must be talking about some type of nursing home. I had worked on the fast-paced trauma unit in St Andrew's Hospital in New York for close to 15 years before they terminated me for taking narcotics, so I could only imagine what type of small-scale nursing unit they have in this area. I then say, how do I usually get to work? Sarah responds, you know, silly, either you take the car or Mum drops you off. I reply, oh yeah, that's right, and where is it again? Sarah is laughing and says, are you quizzing me, Dad? I awkwardly respond, yes. Sarah responds, well, you go out of the driveway, then make a right, go to the end of the road and make a left-hand turn. Then it's not far from there. I say, exactly, honey, you got it right. I then say, have you ever been to New York? Sarah responds, where's that? It sounds familiar. Is that by Toronto? Not knowing what to say, so I say, kind of. I feel like I'm trapped in a different universe. This kid is talking to me like I'm her father. Either she's one hell of an actress, or my brain thinks I'm someone different. I look at the mail on the living room table and I say to Sarah, honey, this handwriting is kind of sloppy. Is this envelope for me? Sarah looks at it and says, yep, that's you, John Smith. I show her another envelope and say, is this one for your mother? Sarah responds, yes, Carolyn Smith. Also, I see a newspaper that says, the Cumberland Times, serving residents of Nova Scotia. Think to myself, that sounds familiar. Is Nova Scotia in Canada? Am I in Canada? I say to Sarah. Hey, what country is closest to us? She responds, you know, the United States. I say, yeah, that's right, as I remember sitting in the laundromat yesterday in Brooklyn and having no idea how I got here or why I'm here. I look around the house and I see a desktop computer in a spare room. Microsoft Windows is open and I try to see if there's internet. There is nothing that comes up when I look at the Wi-Fi settings or the hard wiring. I go back out to the living room and I say to Sarah, what's up with the internet? Sarah responds, only the high school has it. Don't you remember? They told us that we can't get service here. I responded, oh yeah, of course, that's right. I see a landline phone, but I don't know anyone's phone number. My contacts are all in my cell phone, which isn't here. Carolyn comes back through the front door. I awkwardly stand there, not knowing what to expect, and she says, I was able to get lobster for $5 a pound. I say, oh my gosh, was it stolen? Carolyn laughs and says, no, I got it directly from the fisherman at the wharf. I respond, oh, that makes sense. Carolyn makes lobster roll sandwiches, then we go in the living room to watch the news. I was amazed how the news resembled a college broadcasting type of quality. There were no murders or robberies, just some middle-aged woman who haphazardly threw makeup on her face and talked about local happenings at the area, community centres and church. I sat there the whole time, completely befuddled. I kept thinking to myself, where am I? Am I part of an experiment? I don't see any hidden cameras. I've just been inserted into this house as this kid's father and this woman's husband. I never wanted to have kids, and I'm not evenly remotely attracted to women, so what am I doing here with these strangers? It's now 2 p.m. Then Carolyn says, "John, are you going to get ready for work?" I awkwardly respond, "Yeah, I guess." I go into Carolyn's bedroom, and after opening one of the dressers, I realise that someone had brought all of my clothes over to this house, even my nursing scrubs, which I haven't worn in well over a year. I put on the scrubs and slowly walk back out to the living room. I have no confidence in whether or not I'm supposed to be wearing these scrubs, so I kind of feel like I'm in a Halloween contest. Neither Carolyn nor Sarah say anything about the scrubs, so I figure what Sarah told me about being a nurse in an old people's home was accurate. Carolyn asks me if she wants me to drive to work, and I tell her that I'll drive myself. So I get in the car and follow the directions that Sarah unknowingly had given me earlier. As I'm driving, I'm amazed by the vast nothingness. I have never been to a place so remote like this before. The car has less than a quarter of a tank of gas, and I have no money, so I can't make a mad car dash back to New York. I finally see a small bungalow house with an elderly couple gardening at the front. I slow down, thinking maybe I should ask them for help. Then I realise, what am I going to tell these people? I was mysteriously brought here last night, and a woman and child are holding me against my will. I don't know anyone's phone number since my mother got rid of her landline and got a cell phone, so I decide to just drive past the elderly couple and wave. I see the Shady Oaks retirement sign, then I see the building. It's small, only the size of a strip mall. I pull into the parking lot and head towards the entrance. The entrance door is locked, so I ring the buzzer. An Asian woman comes and opens the door. I can't tell if she's Korean, but she kind of resembles a Korean woman. With a real thick accent, she says, "Hi John." Because of her accent, I can't tell if she's asking me if my name is John or greeting me as John. She then says, "Let go," and "can't medications." I figure she is saying that we need to count narcotics in between shifts. As I'm walking to the medication cart, I see multiple residents wandering around. They don't respond when I greet them, so I quickly pick up that this home is for memory impaired residents. As we count the meds, at first I feel a level of apprehension related to my prior narcotic conviction, but I don't let it show, and I finish the count. 2 additional nurse aides come in who are from Africa. They're both very friendly, but they are limited in understanding and speaking English. The other licensed nurse who let me into the building leaves, and now I'm in charge. I feel a sense of empowerment, which is something that I haven't felt in months. At this moment, I don't feel like a washed up loser. I do a quick tour of the building and I count a total of 40 residents living here. The residents have armbands on and I try to remember each resident's name. I notice the residents just finished dinner and the 2 aides are getting the residents situated for the evening. I look over the residents' medication and treatment administration binders to see what medications and treatments they are scheduled for next. I don't see any computers, and I realise that this place only deals with paper. I think to myself, wow, this is a stark contrast to the trauma nursing I had done in New York, when nothing was paper and everything consisted of the latest state-of-the-art equipment. I look over the residents' charts to get acclimated with their medical history. As the evening approaches, I pour the night medications. I feel confident in the nursing tasks I did this evening because I was used to a fast-paced, stressful city hospital at Shady Oaks, so Shady Oaks is easy. The front door buzzes and the night nurse comes in to relieve me. It's a licensed nurse from Africa who also can barely speak English. We count meds, then I leave to go home. I haven't had this amount of energy in a long time. I get back to the house and open the front door with the key ring attached to the car keys. The house is dark and is lighted by night lights. I have never had a father, so I really don't know what to do when it comes to a nighttime procedure. Coming home from work, after a few minutes, I decide to go into Carolyn's bedroom to get changed. As I open the bedroom door, Carolyn wakes up for a moment and says, "Hi, John." I say hi back and she falls back to sleep. I awkwardly get changed in the bedroom and now I'm not sure what to do. I go out to the living room and discover the temperature is a bit too cold without blankets, so I go back to Carolyn's room and crawl into bed. I lay motionless for a few moments and I'm still completely perplexed of how I got to this remote area in Canada. I have no other memories other than living in New York. I don't know if I'm in a dream or some type of alternative universe. I eventually pass out. I wake up the next morning in the same room. I go towards the kitchen and I'm once again perplexed because there is banana and a coffee waiting for me, which is something I have every morning. Today is Sunday, which is my day off, and for the rest of the day I just follow Carolyn's lead. I do mostly outdoor work and Sarah occasionally comes out to help. I feel a sense of structure and self-worth. I think to myself, at least I'm not moping around my apartment waiting to get evicted. We settle into the living room after Carolyn made dinner. We all sat and watched TV. I didn't want to broach the subject of whether my mind thinks I'm someone else or I was essentially kidnapped, so I just sit and quietly watch whatever programs they put on. We all retire to bed and I wake up the next morning and fall into the same routine as the previous days, and eventually I go to work. The days have turned into weeks and I now feel like my old confident self again, but this time with a platonic marriage and a kid who refers to me as Dad. One night at work I was caught up with everything and I noticed the administrative office was accidentally left unlocked. I decided to go into the office and look for any information on me. Eventually I found a manila folder labelled John Smith, which was stashed away beneath boxes in a closet. I open the folder and I see that someone had filled out an application with all my information on it. I look further and I see a New York nurse's license for Rory Simkowitz with a petition to the Prothonotari's office to change my name to John Smith. I also see a Nova Scotian reciprocated nurse license from New York. I think to myself that I finally found the information I was looking for and that I hadn't lost my mind. The last page in the folder is a first name of Teresa with a New York area code phone number. Teresa is my mother's name and the phone number looks like hers. I dig a little deeper in the closet and I see meeting minutes from the facility on how desperate they are to find nursing staff because all the nurses leave to go to the United States to make more money. I see countless copies of newspapers and magazine ads that were sent everywhere in North America about the open nursing positions. Also, I come across other John Smith files where I figure there were other unsuccessful attempts to copy what happened to me. As I skim back through my file, I see a familiar name, Susan Wells, who is an administrator of the facility and the cousin of Carolyn Smith, whom I'm living with. I have that aha moment as I piece everything together in my head. First, most people who call the number about the nursing job are turned off by the remoteness of the facility and or the low pay. I'm guessing the uninterested candidates were down and out like me. Then somehow the uninterested candidates tells a family member who calls Shady Oaks and further inquiries about the position. The family member talks to Susan Wells, the administrator, who sells the family member on a large scheme involving her cousin Carolyn Smith and her daughter Sarah. Based on the other John Smith files, I assume Sarah and Carolyn had time to perfect their scheme based on the other male candidates that had come through their house, only to have the males leave and go back home, or at least that's where I assume the failed candidates went back to. I take a moment and I think to myself, I would have never considered taking this job if it wasn't for my mother, and then I would still be home, depressed and unemployed, waiting to get evicted from my apartment. I'm not sure if I overdosed myself or if my mother put something in my coffee that day I arrived in Nova Scotia, but that didn't matter to me, and I'm guessing my mother drove me here. I decided to call my mother from the administrative office. It's now 10 p.m. The phone rings, and based on the raspy voice, I could tell my mother just woke up. I say, "Hi Mom, it's me, your son." My mother has a boost of energy after hearing my voice and says, "Oh my gosh dear, how are you doing?" I respond, "Everything is fine Mom, thanks for everything." She responds, "That's great dear, I'm glad to hear you're okay." I respond, "I'll call you again in a few days. It was nice to hear your voice." My mother responds, "Okay, take care now. I love you," and we both hang up. I finish my shift for the night and return home. I don't bring up any of this newly discovered information to Carolyn or Sarah. It's been 5 years now, and I love my job as well as Sarah and Carolyn. I could have left any time to go back to New York, but I have no interest. The thing in my father's house, posted by Connect Collection 60. I never thought of it till I seen a big black orb cross from my dad's room to mine. It does not come out during the day though, just the night when I am blow drying my hair. It feels as if something or someone is watching me. My mom told me a story on how he and his friends were messing with a Ouija board and had a Bible swiped at him from across the room. And last weekend I was there. I was laying in the pitch black trying to sleep. My dad has this creepy AF ringtone that goes, "Daddy, Daddy," in a child's voice with creaking floors. All of a sudden I hear something fall as it's echoing. When I get up in the morning and thought about it, I went and looked at one of my doll's heads. Fell off. The thing that really got me was the fact that it echoed in my head as if they were beside me. My dad does not believe me. I wake up with scratches on my arms and really bad headaches. He still does not believe me. Since I wrote this story for the first time, I have got bruises and random scratches. It's so scary. I never thought this would happen to me, but it did. This weekend my sister and I were sitting on my bed. Mind you, I have never seen something in my room till this weekend. Anyway, we look up and see a huge black shadow cross the room. It was so scary. Since then, I've had a feeling that someone has been watching me, and I hate it. It's the worst feeling, especially when you're home alone. I think I brought whatever is at my dad's house home. My parents have been waking up and fighting. My baby sister wakes up more, screaming and crying, yelling, "Leave me alone." When we have been fighting a whole lot more, and overall we are all in a bad mood. My mom is a witch and she is going to make me a protection thing to keep on me while I am at my dad's house, and a sage spray instead of burning it, because like I said before, my dad does not believe me. I hope it works. I am so done with it. I feel like my life is going downhill. Dog sitting, posted by Applesauce16. This is a true story, just putting that out there. Anyway, when I was 13, I dog sat for my aunt and uncle's dog while they were at work for the summer. It was a fun job and super easy. I got paid $30 a week, I think, so their dog went into their room to lay on the bed, and I stayed in the living room watching something on TV. A little bit later, I went to go check on her and see if she wanted to go outside. Right when I got to the door, I hear someone say, "Here, doggy." It freaked me out really bad, and I ran away from the door while the dog was barking in the background. I'm sure some people may think maybe someone was at the window, but the windows weren't open and the curtains were closed, so no one knew she was in the room. A few weeks after that, they got a new cat. I would watch both of them and make sure the dog didn't hurt the cat. So one day the cat was in the kitchen and I went in to check on her, and it looked like she was playing with something, like she kept jumping up to attack something. And believe me, I look everywhere to see if it might have been a bug, but there wasn't anything there. It freaked me out, so I told my aunt, and we are pretty sure that the house is haunted. Luckily, they don't live there anymore. Sadly though, the dog died a little while ago, and we all really miss her. The cat lives with me and my family now, and she is a huge turd, but we love her anyway. So yeah, that's my story. Sorry if it's not great, but it's what I got. The albino deer, posted by MTP6921. Growing up in the small town of Fog Creek, outside of Philadelphia, I experienced how life went from being hot to cold in just a few hours. I lived in a house where trains used to come through up until the early 80s. Then the railroad company went defunct and the rails were turned into a public trail in the early 2000s. In the 1990s, before the old train line turned into a public trail, my twin sister Grace and I, Peter, would spend countless hours in the backyard. Grace and I were fraternal twins, though we looked as close to being identical twins as a brother and sister could be. We both had red hair, freckles, green eyes, a slight cleft palate, and identical birthmarks in front of our right ears and below our chins. Though Grace did girl things and I did boy things as well, we still would swing on the tire swing that our dad had put up, or we played along the creek that was virtually in our backyard. Grace and I were 11 years old in 1992, and we were both in the 6th grade. Something happened on one Thursday evening which I still haven't recovered from to this day. My mother was raised from strict and controlling Pennsylvania German parents. She tried not to be the same way, but unfortunately she mirrored her parents. My mother was particular in how things had to be done. There are usually multiple ways to do things, but the only right way is how my mother does it. On the Thursday afternoon, Grace had a bad day at school, and the other girls were teasing her, and she did poorly on her math test. Instead of giving Grace leeway and backing off from her, our mother further criticised Grace for not cleaning her room, as our mother instructed her to do the previous day. Grace just got to her boiling point and stormed out of the house, where I figured she just went in the backyard to cool off. It was a warm November evening, and the temperature was in the mid-50s at 4 p.m. I went into the backyard at about 4:20 p.m. to check on Grace, and she was nowhere to be seen, which caused me to be alarmed. I immediately told my parents, and they started to freak out. My parents didn't feel comfortable with Grace, being a girl, going out on her own. They gave me more slack, and I was able to come and go as I pleased. My parents looked stunned, and we all went into the backyard. My father instructed me to check along the creek, while my mother went left on the old abandoned train line, and my father went right towards town. Most of the leaves had fallen, so I remembered being able to see a good unobstructed distance, but I didn't see her anywhere. Only after an hour, both of my parents came back, and they were absolutely frantic. Neither of them saw any trace of Grace. I remembered it being about 20 minutes from being completely pitch dark. My parents decided to call the local police, and other people in the community helped along in the search. It was by far the worst day of my life. One man said he had seen Grace walking towards town at about 4:45 p.m. The old abandoned train line ran parallel with the town's main street. The only thing was, you really couldn't see the train line from the street because the houses obstructed the view. In the 1990s, the old abandoned train line was just a rustic deer trail, whereas today it has a 6-foot wide paved trail that is maintained by the local government. Also, there were roads that Grace may have ventured on, where one of the roads could take you to Philadelphia, which was 20 miles away. Nighttime came, and just about all the 2,000 local people became aware of Grace's running away. As midnight approached, things got worse and worse, because it had been nearly 4 hours. And besides that one man who saw Grace minutes after she had left, there had been no other sightings of Grace. We were all hoping that she was hiding in a wooded area versus a car taking her away somewhere. I remember it being close to 2 a.m. and yelling into the pitch dark woods, "Grace, Grace," with no prevail. Hours went by, still with no sign of Grace. The cops searched every local deviant's home with no luck. Days turned into weeks, and by this time my parents had aged about 30 years. They both became unkempt. They both had given up on life. My mother took the brunt of the blame on herself and would cry herself to bed each night. My father started to drink heavily. The local newspapers would print anniversary editions of Grace's disappearance. The most recent one was the 5-year anniversary. The police's theory was that Grace ventured onto the road heading towards Philadelphia, and some monster capitalized on the opportunity and somehow got Grace into his car, one way or another. It has now been 10 years, and I have graduated from Temple University as a physician assistant. I decided to stay local to help keep an eye on my parents. I got a job with a physician in town, and I would make rounds to the area nursing homes. Over the years, I didn't give up hope on one day being able to discover what happened to Grace. The FBI had posted age progression photos online of what she might look like as an adult. Also, I put up a Facebook page with Grace's information, where I would periodically make a post remembering Grace's disappearance. On one Sunday morning, I checked the Facebook page and I got a weird message which stated, "Attend Ms. Womer's estate auction this upcoming Saturday," with no additional information provided. The Facebook page was set to public, where anyone could post anything. Over the years I received a fair amount of hoaxes, so I learned to be cautious. Also, I wasn't sure if the post on Facebook was a spam advertisement, but I was intrigued how the person knew I was local and knew I would be familiar with Ms. Womer. Ms. Womer owned a fabric store in town, where she also sold other knickknacks like dolls and other things. My mother would frequent her store often, and I would go with my mother sometimes. Ms. Womer had moved into one of the area nursing homes because she could no longer care for herself. The person who sent the message on Facebook didn't respond to my inquiry reply, so I figured it was just a dummy account someone had created, which, to be honest, got me a little more intrigued. I showed up on the estate auction, which was right on the main street in town. I showed up an hour early to give me time to look into the possible cryptic message. As I got into fabric store, I greeted the auction company. None of them said anything unusual to me, other than there was personal items to be auctioned off in the attic and in the basement, in addition to items from the store. Nothing stood out as unusual in the store. It looked like the same crap that I have seen from many years past. The basement had metal shelving units which had more unwanted crap like tools and overflow fabric. I went into the attic and there were a ton of handmade dolls haphazardly stored in whatever available space. Most of the dolls were displayed on top of cardboard boxes. As my eyes perused around the attic, all I saw were mostly brown and black hair male and female dolls, with an occasional blonde one mixed in. As I was about to leave the attic, an orange hair doll to the left caught my eye. I said out loud, "What the heck is this?" The orange hair doll was a mere exact replica to my sister Grace, who had been missing for over 20 years. At first I thought that Miss Womer did this as a remembrance when Grace disappeared, but as I inspected the doll closer, I saw small likenesses to Grace that only she and I knew, and maybe my parents. I remembered shortly before Grace's disappearance, she and I basically did a body check to see if we had the same birthmarks. We both had a birthmark on our right foot below our big toes, and another one halfway down our back that our sneakers and shirts would conceal. The similarities stopped me in my place. I was in absolute shock. I didn't know whether or not I should call the police right away, and after a couple of minutes I had decided that was the best thing to do. The police came and I told them about the doll. The police halted the auction and they called in the FBI. The FBI searched Ms. Womer's store and found no other evidence besides the doll. The same day the FBI went to the nursing home and attempted to question Ms. Womer, but they were unsuccessful because of Miss Womer's dementia. The FBI analysed the doll and determined the head was painstakingly carved from wood, and the body was made up of a composite plaster type material. The FBI detective, David Chavez, said that it was a master craftsman who must have constructed the doll, and it had to take the person days, if not weeks, to complete. Detective Chavez said he was looking into local leads of people who had the ability to construct such a doll. Questions still remained, like, how did Ms. Womer get the doll? Did someone give her the doll? Was she somehow involved in Grace's disappearance? I couldn't wait for the FBI to get back to me with whatever information they found or didn't find, so I went to the Shady Oaks nursing home where Ms. Womer resided to see if I could get any information out of her. A physician assistant, Ms. Womer, was one of my patients. Nobody had caught onto the conflict of interest yet between me and Ms. Womer, so I decided to take advantage of the situation. I went right into Ms. Womer's room. She was an 80-year-old woman who has a roommate about the same age. Ms. Womer had her TV on, but I wasn't sure if she could actually comprehend what was on TV. I have over 400 patients, so it's difficult for me to remember the particulars of each patient. I said, "Good morning, Ms. Womer. I'm Peter. Do you remember me?" Ms. Womer gave no response, so I said, "My mother and I used to come into your store all the time when I was a kid." Ms. Womer looked expressionless as I asked her the questions, almost like my words were meaningless to her. I went out to talk to the nursing staff, and they said she doesn't comprehend what is spoken to her, and she doesn't talk much. I figured it was futile to say anything else to Ms. Womer, so I went into her room to say goodbye. As I went back into Ms. Womer's room, her roommate said, "My back is killing me." I responded, "Would you like some Tylenol?" The roommate, Ms. Jenkins, responded, "Yes, that would help out a lot." Then I said, "Okay, I'll tell one of the nurses." "How is everything else going?" Ms. Jenkins responded, "Fine." I said, "You look tired. Have you been able to sleep?" Ms. Jenkins responded, "Yes, most nights, but occasionally someone will call early in the morning." I responded, "Oh, that must disrupt your sleep. You should tell them to call during normal hours." Ms. Jenkins responded, "It's my roommate's phone that wakes me up, not my phone." I said, "Really? Does Ms. Womer talk to the person?" Ms. Jenkins whispered to me, so Ms. Womer couldn't hear that. Usually she just says yes or no, like she's answering questions, but I have no idea who calls or the reason for the calls. I responded, "Oh, that's interesting. Ms. Womer picks up the phone, though, by herself." Ms. Jenkins responded, "Oh yes, nobody helps her." Then I said, "Oh, okay, Ms. Jenkins. I'll tell one of the nurses to get you that Tylenol." Ms. Jenkins responded, "Oh yeah." I stopped to think for a few minutes. I was aware of certain medical conditions, like Sundowner's syndrome, where older people's personalities would change depending on the time of day, but Ms. Weimer's behaviour wouldn't likely fit into this category. I think Ms. Weimer is scared of something, so much so that she makes herself out to be a near vegetable. She knows enough to pick up the phone when it rings, and according to Ms. Jenkins, she responds to questions by answering yes or no. So, I summarise, Ms. Weimer must be playing a game with everyone. So I decided to approach Ms. Weimer again, and I said, "You'll never know how Grace's disappearance ruined my whole family's life. All I want is closure. I know you know something. Please, just acknowledge me." Ms. Weimer still looked expressionless, so I whispered to her, "Okay, you want to keep playing this game. So what I'm going to do is discontinue your Percocet prescription for your fibromyalgia. I'll come back in 2 days when you're really in pain and when you're going through withdrawal." As promised, I discontinued her Percocet order cold turkey with no tapering reduction. I finished seeing my other patients for the day. Then I left. The next day I received a phone call from the Shady Oaks nursing home that Miss Weimer appeared to be uncomfortable without the Percocet. I made up some ailment to the nurse on the phone, that Miss Weimer was having some sort of breathing issues and it wasn't safe to give her Percocets. I told the nurse that I would come in tomorrow to see Ms. Weimer. I woke up and went to see Ms. Weimer the first thing in the morning. I could tell she was experiencing great discomfort, mostly from going through withdrawal. I facetiously said, "Hi, Ms. Weimer, it's me, Peter again. How did you sleep last night?" I could tell that Ms. Weimer wasn't able to fake her dementia from the uncomfortableness she was experiencing. I then whispered, "Tell me something about Grace, or what you're experiencing now will go on for days." I could tell that Ms. Weimer was close to breaking, so I then said, "Tell me something, or I'm leaving without an order for Percocets." Ms. Weimer then leaned over to me and said, "White deer get rejected." I was astonished that Ms. Weimer said something. I didn't know what she meant, but she said something at least. As promised, I renewed the Percocets order. I went over and over in my head, pondering what the heck white deer get rejected meant. I didn't know if it was pure gibberish or if it was a cultural inequality expression, or if it meant something that I just couldn't figure out. I asked local hunters, who said that the deer that are born white are rare and that they never have seen them before. Based on that response from the hunters, I was left pondering that if albinism is a possibility in all mammals, then why don't we see more white deer? In my hometown of Shady Creek, we see tons of deer on a daily basis, especially with urban sprawl and the inability of the deer to hide due to the dwindling woods. From a common sense standpoint, I was able to summarize that albino deer don't survive because of what? We don't we really don't have animal predators in the area that will kill them. So then it dawned on me. I said to myself, it's the mothers. For some reason, the mothers reject the deer. But why? Thinking out loud, I thought that regular deer are hard to see with their natural fur colour patterns in the forest, but a white deer, especially with their born with red eyes, would be easy to spot from a mile away. So the mother instinctively lets the albino fawn die in order to save her own life. In other words, the mother rejects the albino fawn, which can be viewed as the mother or the parents killing their own young by deprivation. Did Miss Weimer tell me my parents were at least partially responsible for Grace's disappearance? I thought to myself. Were the perpetrators hiding in plain sight? Was everything, including the searches, just a big ruse? I couldn't rule this out. As shocking as this theory seemed to be playing out, as a kid, I would never think my parents would harm either Grace or I, because parents don't do that. But countless media stories have shown throughout the years that unfortunately parents do harm their children. I wonder if Grace ventured into Ms. Weimer's store. Ms. Weimer's ex-husband went to school with my father, and they were both acquaintances. The ex-husband was considered a seedy character growing up and a hardcore alcoholic, which eventually ended up killing him. My father's purpose in life was to serve my mother, which as an adult I kind of see as being pathetic. My father had a difficult time finding gainful employment, and my mother had to always help him find work, which he would eventually quit or get fired from, so my mother's odd jobs would mostly support us. Because Grace couldn't conform to my mother's controlling ways, my father let Miss Weimer's ex-husband correct the situation. I believe both my parents regretted their actions and now live with a lifetime of grief. I planned on going to my parents' house for dinner tonight and confronting them. I arrived at their house. The three of us sat at the dinner table, and I said, I'm going to ask the both of you guys something, and if the two of you lie to me, then you'll never see me again. I'm asking this question just for closure and no other reason. Please don't make me out to be a fool or pretend what I'm saying is completely fabricated. Were you guys responsible for Grace's disappearance? Both of my parents' forks hit their plates, and I was met with silence. Something so cold and truly odd happened that I didn't anticipate. Both of my parents looked at me like I was no more. Kind of like when a sports team hypes up a player, then cuts the same player when the player doesn't perform to the team's expectations. I had turned into the salesman that my parents wanted to go away. I knew something would ruin their daily routine, and much like Grace, I was disruptive, and now I'm ruining their routine. My parents had instantaneously made the decision to reject me, like the albino fawn and Grace. There were no further words spoken, and then my father said, "Okay, it's time for you to leave." Neither of them have returned any of my phone calls, and they don't answer the door when I knock. I now know that my parents never want to see me again. I decided to go to the FBI. I told them my theory, and they are now exploring the possibility that my parents, with possible assistance from others, are responsible for Grace's disappearance. And that's it for tonight, my little hellhounds. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe and like the video, as this really helps out the channel. If you have any stories you would like narrated on the channel, then please submit them to Reddit r/homeofscares, and follow me on Twitter at homeofscares. Now, good night, my little hellhounds.